Grom is probably the most unique out of all the throwers, having a very interesting main attack and a very interesting design overall. In this video, we'll talk about that main attack and the nuances associated with it, as well as how his range affects his use cases. We'll also talk about the topic of self-sufficiency and how that seems to curiously be absent with Grom, as well as much more. If you want a chance to win Eldritch Professor Barley, or simply just have fun and a place to talk, join our Discord server. Link will be in the description. Also, make sure to subscribe to keep up with the PowerPoints. As always, let's start out with the basics. Grom is quite squishy at a 5600 health, as well as a normal movement speed. His main attack is very unique, shooting out a projectile which he can throw anywhere in a range of 7.67 tiles. Once it lands, it splits into 4 piercing projectiles that travel for 3 tiles up, down, right, and left. Each attack deals 2280 damage, and he has quite a slow reload speed of 2 seconds. As for his super, Grom shoots out a bigger and better version of his main attack, which this time pushes enemies back, with the projectiles also traveling for 5.67 tiles now. The super also breaks walls, as well as deals 3200 damage. And with the basics out of the way, let's actually start talking about Grom. First, his main attack. This is certainly one of the most unique main attacks in the game. The closest main attack I can think of to Grom's is Spikes, and he's not even a thrower. So what exactly does this main attack mean for Grom? Well, it's one of the hardest main attacks to consistently hit. Usually, since throwers are so inherently broken with their ability to throw over walls, they are balanced in a variety of ways, with one of the ways being a difficult main attack to hit. Against experienced players, it's not easy to consistently hit shots with Sprout, Dyna, and of course, Grom. Of course, with other throwers like Tick, you don't even have to think about your shots. Unfortunately, it's the opposite with Grom. Grom has an extremely slow attack speed, giving smart enemies ample time to dodge their shots. Because of this, a lot of prediction is involved with Grom, as you have to properly predict enemy movement if you want any chance of hitting your shots. However, unlike Sprout, at least Grom has a lot more chance of hitting enemies with the way his main attack splits. However, there are 2 problems with this. Just like Spike's attack, you can't see how Grom's attack splits up, which means you have to visualize the direction and the range the attack splits, or you won't hit the attack. Second, dodging diagonally. Since Grom's main attack is always perpendicular, it can't go diagonally. So if you dodge diagonally, Grom splits for the most part won't be able to hit you. Finally, and most niche, enemies can track the shadows of the main attack to dodge, though Brawl Stars is never that serious to actually be doing that. I spoke a lot about how to dodge Grom's main attack, but there are some strengths to it. One of the major strengths is, of course, with walls. If you can force enemies to stay near walls, they will have a much more difficult time dodging Grom's attack. Think about it. When you have no walls around you, you have full directional freedom. You can move wherever to dodge shots. However, when you have a wall near you, you no longer have full directional freedom. And Grom is uniquely suited to take advantage of this, with his main attack covering so much space, making it extremely difficult to dodge a shot near a wall. Finally, for his main attack, its range is extremely long, especially for a thrower. At a face value, you might think it's not that much because it's only listed as 7.67 tiles. However, this doesn't take into account the 3.33 extra tiles that the splits give Grom, which means Grom could potentially have up to 11 tiles of range. This allows him to be better on more traditional sniper maps than other throwers, such as Shooting Star, Out in the Open, and Hideout, and lets him compete with snipers due to his crazy range. Now, onto his super. I mean, Grom's super is just basically a better version of his regular attack, right? I mean, more damage, more range, and more width is a good indication of this. So when is Grom super used? Well, It's actually a little more interesting than just a better version of the regular attack. Often, it's just used as a finisher against enemies. Once you get an enemy to under 3000 health or so, you don't want to risk missing shots with the inconsistent main attack, so you can just use the super to guarantee a kill. Of course, if there are a lot of people clustered at the same point, you can just use the super to get a whole lot of value and get a lot of satisfaction at the same time. Furthermore, you can also use it to break walls as a side bonus if you have to. But keep in mind what I said earlier about Grom and walls, so only do it if you have to. You may have noticed I have missed mentioning one major part of Grom's super. I'll give you 3 seconds to figure it out, or however long I think 3 seconds is. If you guessed pushback, you're correct. This is very important for 2 reasons. First, the pushback it causes allows you to actually perform combos. You can use the super and then quickly fire either a main attack or the gadget that I'll talk about later. And since enemies can't dodge during the pushback, you will basically be guaranteed to hit extra shots, which can deal large amounts of damage. Secondly, at a short range. This is complicated. Sure, it's good as a deterrent at a short range with a good damage and a pushback, of course. However, there are a few problems with this. The super is, as I said earlier, basically a glorified main attack, so it still has the very slow attack speed that can be the difference between life and death. And of course, it still has the same diagonal problem, so if your enemies are skilled enough, they'll still be able to dodge the super, even at a short range. And it gets even worse somehow when you don't have your super. Grom's main attack is horrendous at a short range. The aforementioned slow attack speed as well as the nature of the main attack, and of course, other factors like slow reload speed, low health, and status as a thrower. Overall, there's a lot going against Grom when it comes to short range battles. Self-sufficiency at this point has been explained by me at least 100 times. But if you don't know what it is, it's basically just the concept that every brawler should theoretically be able to win against every other brawler. And Grom, of all brawlers in the game, arguably fits this the least. He is absolutely clueless at a short range unless you play it absolutely perfectly, or your opponent is trash. He genuinely has basically nothing to defend at a short range, and is basically the reason he can't be picked anywhere but a last pick. Let's go over his unlockables now, starting with his gadgets. Grom's first gadget is Watchtower, that gives all his allies sight into bushes over a 10 tile radius. This is quite situational and is good for maps very bush heavy like Snake Prairie, or even a map like Double Swoosh, though I don't know why you would be playing Grom there. Grom's second gadget is Radio Check, which sees him shoot 3 splits instead of 1 on his next attack. This is a really good gadget, but there is one caveat. It doesn't make the shot more accurate, it simply makes hitting your shot much more valuable. Now, his star powers. Foot Patrol sees Grom gain 15% faster movement speed when his super is fully charged. This should help him at a short range, right? Well, not really. 15% movement speed increase isn't bad, but it isn't a crazy boost like, for example, Rico's. And that's not to mention the use case is so low, because you have to actively get your super and save it to get use out of the star power. His second star power is X Factor, which sees the split from Grom's main attack increase to up to 30% damage at max distance. This is a great star power and promotes learning geometry, because there's a huge incentive to not hit the enemy directly, but with the splits instead. Finally, his hypercharge, which is named quite weirdly. It basically sees Grom throw out a new X-shaped hypercharge right after his regular super. This is really good for Grom, as it basically allows him to not miss enemies, due to the fact it covers so much area, but more importantly, it covers diagonally, something that I mentioned was a big weakness for Grom earlier. Overall, Grom is one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting, thrower in the game. His unique main attack and the many nuances involved with it create interesting scenarios that are heavily based on skill and knowledge, which can decide whether Grom emerges as the victor or the loser. However, Grom is likely to emerge the loser when it comes to short range, where he spits in the face of the concept of self-sufficiency being hilariously inept at a close range. But anyway, thanks for watching. Watch this video, or this playlist, or join the Discord server.